Hey everybody, I'm John Luke with the Home Button, and today I'm going to try something a little weird. I'm going to start a little video series called Does It Hold Up? This is where I take a look at older games and decide if they, well, hold up. With the Uncharted Nathan Drake collection having just come out, I figured what perfect franchise to test this series out on. So let's start with the first game, Uncharted Drake's Fortune, which is probably the most in need of answering the question, does it hold up? So I think it's important to start off with some context. Context is really important, I find, when talking about an older game, because it kind of puts you in the mindset of, like, well, here's what the game was like back in the day. So the game came out in November of 2007. That is almost 8 years ago. That is a really long-ass time. This is an old game. It got great reviews, a lot of 9s and 10s. The game looked amazing at the time. I mean, just like he rolled in the water and then the shirt got wet. Like, oh my god, it was amazing. So my context with the game, I bought it when it came out. I've probably beaten it 5 or 6 times. It's the first game I ever got a platinum on. I love this game. And I think that's important for you to understand, because I'm going to try and not be too biased. I'm going to try and put myself in the perspective of someone who's never played it when talking about this, but I think a little bit of my nostalgia might come through, so keep that in mind when I talk about it.
That should keep him from changing the channel.
Okay, so I played through the game again. I played the collection, by the way. You can play the PlayStation 3 one, but it doesn't hold up as much. And plus, I think anyone who's going to be playing this game now is probably going to pick up the PS4 version. It's the version to play. So let's start with the story. The story is you are Nathan Drake. You're a treasure hunter. You're searching for El Dorado. You're on the tale of Sir Francis Drake, who was also searching for it. A lot of taking historical stuff that kind of happened and then mixing it with a lot of fantasy stuff. Very Indiana Jones, which is kind of what draws me to the series in the first place. I love Indiana Jones, I grew up on it.
How much trouble could one girl be?
Well, come on!
Thank you. Hey!
It's a fun story. I like the characters, I like the world. It isn't as crazy as the later games. You know, the later games get very globe-trotty. You know, you go to a lot of different locations. This game largely is confined to this one island. A lot of jungle, a lot of old Spanish fortresses and stuff like that, which, in retrospect, looking at the later games, it feels more constrained and like, but there's something about that I actually kind of like. I like the simplicity of the first game, sort of just like, yeah, you're on this island and you're trying to find El Dorado, and it's straightforward, but I kind of like that. I think somebody who played the later games and then coming back is going to look at it and kind of be like, Now, if you're someone who's never played Uncharted, I think you actually might still find some value in Uncharted 1. It's something that, if you like that kind of gameplay or you just like exploring, you're going to like the characters. I think you're going to like the world. So I think it still actually looks pretty good graphically. They've actually done a couple updates to it for the Uncharted collection. There is a great Digital Foundry video you should go check out where they really break it down into detail. I mean, they've done some work on this, and I think it looks pretty good. Also, because of the collection, it all runs in 1080p at 60 frames a second, which looks great. Although the cutscenes are also in 60 frames a second, which is a bit weird because it suddenly doesn't look like a movie as much anymore. It's kind of like when you watch The Hobbit in 48 frames a second. It suddenly looks weird, and I don't know if I love that. So the gameplay is pretty straightforward. You're either climbing up platforms or shooting people with guns, sometimes both. The gunplay is fine. I mean, it's cover-based. It's kind of all the rage back then. The improvements they've made in the later games, stuff like the melee is so much better in those games that, again, if you're coming back to it, it's gonna feel a bit archaic, but I think it still is fine. It's serviceable. It feels good still. Like, the shooting feels great. It's all satisfying. I quite enjoy it still. The game lacks some of the bigger dramatic sequences that the later games are known for, like the train stuff or the plane scene. But it does have a couple of little action scenes. There's a part where you're on a turret on the back of a Jeep. There's a water jet ski thing that, frankly, sucked back then and still kind of sucks now. Not gonna lie. And again, they're they're not going to blow you away like the later stuff, but they're fine. I think they're serviceable. You can see where they're finding the rhythm of what the series is going to become in this game, and there's something kind of cool about that. Without giving any spoilers for people who've never played Uncharted 1, there is a moment in the game where some story stuff is revealed, and then some of the enemy encounters change. Some people get very mixed feelings about it. I personally think it's okay, but be warned, you might get thrown off by that. Again, I don't want to say anything about spoilers.
Nate?
Okay, I don't think they can get through this.
Nate,
What?
where are we?
Alright, so wrapping up this mess of a video that's all over the place, the question is, does Uncharted 1 hold up? Is it worth your time playing? I really think that depends on you and your experience with these types of games. Again, if you've played the later Uncharted but have never played 1, it might be fun to go back to it and be like, oh man, this is what the first Uncharted was like. But it's gonna feel really old and archaic, you know, just like the systems are so much lessened and haven't been refined, and it's not as bombastic. But again, if you've never played it, and you've never played Uncharted, I think you might find some value in this. You're gonna, you know, it's a fun story. I like the simplicity of it. You know, everything still works, like the combat still feels good. I think the graphics aren't that bad, especially with the collection and the improvements they've made. It's a fun game, and I had a really fun time playing it. I actually played it with my brother, who's never played it before, and he enjoyed it. He was like, yeah, that was just a fun little story. So there you go, that is my opinion on Uncharted Drake's Fortune. I think it is totally a serviceable game that still holds up, especially compared to some of the other games of that era. But please, let me know what you think. Are you like me, where you think it holds up, or are you a Gabe Carey, where it's not doing it for you? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear them. Also, let me know what you think of this video. I would like to make more of these if people like them. I think that'd be cool. I'm definitely going to make some on at least the other 2 Uncharted games, so look forward to those. And see you next time.